Are you ready to branch out, to take a leap of faith, to love yourself and others fully? Then let go of whatever no longer serves you to take action now on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Erica will energize and excite you to power up your passionate dream that sets your soul on fire. With Erica's E3 approach, equipping, empowering, and enlightening yourself so you can be yourself for yourself. Get ready and get rooted to live a life without regrets, without what ifs, without should haves, and especially without empty feelings from a life unexplored. This hit show helps you build powerful and intentional roots to live it up, love it up, and let it go. Get fearlessly ready and powerfully rooted in your yes with your host, Erica Gifford Mills, and be fearless about your more and stand in your yes. Now on Get Rooted Radio.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio, living it up, loving it up, letting it go, right here on Transformation Talk Radio. Happy New Year, Emily. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited for the new year.
I am too. I'm ready for 2023 to go out the door and to welcome 2024 with open arms. Did you make any New Year's resolutions or goals?
I heard that it's a good idea to do monthly challenges because I have a hard time sticking to one thing. So I think I'm going to try out doing like a goal or a challenge for each month.
I like that. That is an awesome idea. And that is what today's episode is really all about. It's looking back to look ahead and how we all can become goal diggers. And that's Goal. So don't get it mixed up. I'm not saying gold diggers, goal diggers. The saying goes, don't look behind you. You aren't going that way. However, sometimes you need to look in that rearview mirror to see what went wrong, what went right, enable for you to keep moving forward. But first, why do we look at goal setting around the new year? And I think really it's because the New Year's resolution is a decision to do or not to do something, right? Sometimes people say, I'm going to quit smoking, I'm going to quit drinking, I'm going to quit eating unhealthily, or I'm going to start. And that's where you want to maybe or accomplish a personal goal or break that habit. It is not unusual that as something begins again, like a new year, that we want to look back to see what has been and what is to come. And what I first want to do in this first segment is just examine the pros and cons of New Year's resolutions, because there are definite benefits to making them. And these are just a few. And the first, I think, is the big one. The first two are really big ones, and they're hard. A lot of times at holiday gatherings, it's really having us recap and involuntarily reflect on our year in conversations with family and friends. And it really presents a perspective of what we've accomplished and can give us the drive to set specific goals to work towards and be proud of for the next year. But it is really harder than it seems, because self-awareness means being honest with yourself. It's the good, the bad, the ugly, the hopeful. And we are sometimes our own worst critics. And we really need to look at what part we played in the past year or the past month or, the past 5 years. And that's where looking in the mirror, whether it's a rear view mirror or not, to understand what could or should change. But we just don't want to dwell there. So while I agree, we're not going backwards, we're moving forwards. We don't want to dwell in the past, but we do have to see what we can do better and have that self-awareness, which really leads us to the next pro of making a New Year's resolution or goal. They allow us to reflect. And there's something about the year ending that makes us want to look back and reflect not only on our past, but also the present and the future. And the amazing things that we've gained and the lessons that we've learned in the past year have helped us to shape who we are at this point in our life. So we should never regret those things because it makes us who we are today. But being honest with ourselves and others during this time of reflection is very important. And I know many listeners, that this past year has been challenging one for me. I took a bit of a hiatus, but it started out amazing. I was recognized on Apple and Google News as a 2023 coach to look out for. I had international speaking engagements, and I was truly ready to take on the world. But when I was diagnosed with breast cancer in April, it sure did knock the wind right out of my sails. And it was hard because I did start looking back on what I hadn't accomplished, as opposed to looking at what I did accomplish. But it is the reflection and self-awareness that is allowing me to move forward, because I have a better sense of the things that worked in my favor and the things that really brought me down. And this knowledge will carry me through the new year and guide me as I set new goals. And it is hard to look back to remember the things you've accomplished, because we aren't always focused on the positive. It's easy to remember the things we didn't do, or to be upset with the goals we didn't accomplish. So one of the things I would like to give you a tip on is personally and professionally, create a place. For personal, I create a jar, decorate it real pretty, and I put a note in it each week, or a list each month, of all the things that brought me joy and things that I'm proud of. Even if it was a challenge, it was a challenge, but I'm proud of the way I handled it. And at the end of the year, I read each of the entries, and it reminds me of the positives of the year, the list of victories, the list of challenges, and what I can go forward to in a positive manner. And when you do this professionally, it also helps when you're, writing your evaluations at the end of the year. Keep on going, keep an ongoing list of your victories, the challenges that you overcame, or what you need to work on in the next year. And that leads us to, so the reflection and the self-awareness really leads us to the next pro, which is the resolutions or the goals trigger our desire to be better. And it's either, putting money in our savings accounts, to living a healthier lifestyle. The new year triggers our desire to hit that refresh button, to, flip that calendar to a new year and try to be better. And since the past year has shown us the things that we should likely improve on, the things that we should eliminate, that's where we can support those positive changes. And we make those resolutions to improve on ourselves and ultimately have a more stable and fulfilling life. And that's where we all are trying to get to. The next pro in my mind, and this also can be a negative, as we'll talk about in just a little bit, is that sometimes these deadlines help to motivate us. And so I'm going to raise my hand really tall on this one, guys, is that many of us are procrastinators, and we need a due date to help get those goals moving, to work towards. And just like you said, Emily, your monthly challenge, maybe you have a long-term goal, but if you break it up into a monthly challenge, you're going to be more apt to get there. So whether it's losing 10 pounds in 3 months or cleaning out that attic before the end of the winter, there are certain goals that need a little pressure to motivate us to achieve them. And that's why listing resolutions can be perfect for those who need that certain timeline to reach that aspiration. And it's that fresh start. So another positive, another pro, if we're making a pro and cons list here, is it's a fresh start. It's hard not to equate that new year with a new beginning. And it can be easy to create and bullet point personal goals. And it's sometimes that liberating and refreshing that we can start with a clean slate. And I think that's why sometimes every Monday, because many people say, oh, it's Monday again. Monday, it's the start of a new week. We can reset, forget the past year, forget the past week, the month, whatever it might be, and just start fresh. But as I said, there are so many benefits or pros, right, for setting those New Year's resolutions. But there are cons. And I say some of these cons, or these not so much benefits, can also help you. So sometimes deadlines foster the procrastination. So if you are a procrastinator and you give yourself 6 months to do something, if you're not working on that every single month, at the end of that 6 months, you're rushing, right? It can be easy to put off getting serious about resolutions if there's a long lead time. So setting goals takes the planning, the follow through, and maybe you do that monthly challenge, as you had mentioned, and we move forward, right? We don't want to postpone it. So along those same lines, or maybe I should say deadlines, we feel too much pressure to beat that deadline. What if you can't achieve your, dream body? Let's say if your goal is to tone up, lose weight, get fit. What if you're still stuck in that job after aiming to move up the ladder? What if your savings didn't grow as much as you projected it to? That can be a lot of pressure to put on yourselves. So we want to make sure that you're doing that right. So take it one step at a time and let everything fall into place naturally. And if you don't make your goal, that doesn't mean that you're a failure. What did you do? Do you need to allow more time? What didn't work for you? So even though it's a con, you can do that self-reflection and self-awareness that we talked about earlier to turn it into a benefit. Along with those sort of items, we come into our self-doubt. Sometimes we set ourselves up for failure without thinking about and taking the proper steps to achieve a goal. So we need to look at, and we'll talk about that in the next segment, is how do we break things down? Because when we fail something, it can leads to self-doubt and guilt if the goal isn't reached. And that can cause more pressure on yourself than anything. And as I mentioned before, another con is that we are way too critical of ourselves. Despite it being a great motivator, New Year's resolutions can also be the cause of our self-criticism, since we tend to look past our achievements and focus on our weaknesses or failures that we need to improve on. And when we still haven't improved on that area, we look down on ourselves more and further punish ourselves for failing. And I think that is a normal reaction for most people, but feeling ashamed can damage our mental and emotional health. And that's the last thing we want to do when we're trying to better ourselves. So you need to make sure that when you're setting these expectations and you don't achieve them, that you're not having it affect your self-worth, your self-esteem. The best way to work through this is by not setting our expectations too high or being extra hard on ourselves. I'm not saying set your standards low, but I'm also don't try to say I'm going to lose 20 pounds in 4 weeks, because that's not reasonable. That's not being attainable. And we'll get into that in the next coming segments. And then the last is every mistake discourages us. So we have to remember that change is a process. Unfortunately, a lot of us want progress quicker than others. And again, I'll raise my hand on this one. I can be very impatient, and I can want what I want right now. And I think that makes us have that setback. And we don't want to set ourselves up and be disappointed in where we're going. So we shouldn't forget that the biggest achievements take a lot of time and effort, which means mistakes are inevitable, right? They're going to be made along the way. It's, do we learn from those mistakes and how can we move forward? But don't let that discourage you from getting further away from your goal. I mean, ultimately, you need to look at yourself and ask, should I set a New Year's resolution? Should I set New Year's goals? Or do I need to break those out into different monthly challenges? So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about various reasons why we should set goals and be that goal digger. You are listening to a special edition of Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any portion of today's episode, you can catch it on getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com. Don't forget to subscribe online to see the latest news, events, specials, and words of encouragement. Go to getrootedradio.com. So during the last segment, we talked about the pros and cons of goals in the forms of New Year's resolutions. Is there can you think of any other pros and cons, Emily, that we didn't talk about?
Let's see. Cons are hard to think of. There's a lot of pros that I can think of that you mentioned.
And I think that's, the big thing is that I don't know that there's a bad thing to do with goals, right? I mean, we want to move forward. We want to achieve things. What we achieve is different for everybody, where we want to go. But, I think the biggest con really is we set too big of a goal. So that's why I loved that suggestion that of breaking it down into a monthly challenge.
Right.
How about to-do lists? Do you make them?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I love
I
crossing stuff off.
Yes, yes. And I know people have different feelings about to-do lists, and I love them. I still, I do a lot of things on the computers, and I have things, but there's nothing to me like writing it down and being able to like cross it off. It just feels so good. And they're great. Many of us do them every day. And like I said, I love them, especially when you can see your achievements. And they give us a roadmap of things we're expecting to accomplish, right? The must do's, it would be great if I got it done. But if you're not in the habit of making lists at the start of each day, you may not
Okay.
understand why it's important to make those goals as well. Because setting
Would you mind
goals
talking
allows
so
you to
I'm
apply
half
focus and
focused?
direction to the course of your day. And a lot of times people think a goal has to be huge. And I think that it can be, right? Like say, for example, you want to write a book. Well, you're not going to sit down and write a book all in one sitting. You have to, you know, chop it up. Just like what's the best way to eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? It's just not that I eat elephants, please. Nobody get mad at me for that. But it is, you can't boil the ocean. You have to take things one step at a time. And so if you can break it up, just like a to-do list, you might find yourself a little bit more productive. But why are goals so important? And in my mind, simply put, they allow you to focus your attention on an objective and measure your progress along the way. And that's where we forget sometimes, is to measure that progress. In many ways, we already know the importance of goal setting, and most everybody has that bucket list of some sorts. So why not put that pen to paper and identify exactly what you want to accomplish with your life? So during this segment, I really want to explore ways to unlock your true potential by identifying your strengths and setting goals that leverage those skills. Because we want to achieve our dreams, but first we've got to write them down. And I've got 5 reasons why you should start setting those goals and really commit to building a better future for yourself today. And again, why not start at the beginning of the year? So as we said, goals give us direction. It sounds simple enough. Having clear goals helps you create a destination for your dreams, something to aspire to. The real value of setting the goals is to focus. It's the focus it affords you in a world otherwise really chock full of distractions. I don't know how many times in a day I'll go squirrel because I feel like the dog from Up. I get distracted and on to something else. But when we have a clear idea of our objectives, we have more capacity to really hone in on your target. That way, if you veer off course, you'll have your goals written down to help bring you back to the center. Because we all know that any destination is rarely a straight line. It's bound with curves and detours and bumps and veers as we go. But why do we set goals, and are they necessary? And you may not think they are at first, but when we get the job done without them in the past, like, have you always just done things without having a certain goal in mind or a certain thing you wanted to do? We are much better when we have a well-built map detailing what we need to do, what we'd like to do, and where it's putting us on the travel to go to a more efficiently and quick journey to our destination. The second one is that goal setting really helps us to identify what's important to us, right? Not to somebody else, but to us. With everyday life pulling us in so many different directions, it's easy to get caught up in the race, right? In the hamster wheel. And we forget altogether where we're headed. The real importance of setting career goals is that it allows you to define what you want to achieve. So you want to, what do you excel at, for starters? And whether it's a career goal or one that involves taking your relationship to the next level or finally writing that book you've been thinking about for years, setting that single goal will likely lead to those other smaller objectives. And by aiming toward your passions and things you really want out of life, you're more likely to work hard and make progress. So if it's not important to you, and we'll get into that a little bit later as well, is it's not going to be something that you're passionate about, and you're not going to achieve it because did you really want to do it in the first place? So that goal setting helps to identify what's important to you. The third one is setting goals really helps us measure progress towards success. And success, as I said earlier, is different for everybody. What one person's idea of success is not another person's. So if you're looking to advance into that next stage of your life, whether that's personally or professionally, making goals and sticking with them will lead you to that success. So let's say, for example, you want to buy a home. Maybe you want to own a home in a few years, and setting a goal of home ownership can really help you carve a path to that end. But why does it lead to success? And again, it's because that firmly defined objective in place, you'll be able to see clearly what steps will need to be done to safely cross that line. So you'll soon realize that if you want to own a home, you may need a mortgage loan. And therefore, you need to start saving now to build up cash to apply towards that down payment in the future. Or maybe you need to take that, look at your credit. So that maybe the major goal is buy a home. Minor goals are going to be improve your credit rating, save for a down payment, apply for a mortgage, right? You have to have other little steps underneath your goal to do that. One of the things, and actually I have them out here. So sometimes when I make goals, I will divide them up into different categories. So like I have finances, business, relationships, health and wellness. And I might have an overall goal, or I might have mini goals, right? Save money, improve your credit score, or have my relationships, build relationships with family, friends, romance, or I might have, health and wellness. If I want to get back into a better sleeping routine, getting back into exercise because I, haven't been doing that much. I set out minor little goals because that's going to help me get to my overall health and wellness goal. And those were things that you need to consider. So again, that goal setting helps you identify what's not only important to you, but then the goal setting helps us measure progress towards success, because you're not going to jump from this is my goal, oh, I've ended. You have to take those steps in between. The fourth one is goals help you really stay motivated. So realizing your dreams can be a truly thrilling ride. And what's most surprising to those that take on the task of setting goals is that things start to happen. The results of hard work, right? When you start working hard, they begin to emerge as you move closer towards that vision of the better you, whatever that better you is. And one of the key reasons why goals are important is that you find that continued momentum in working towards something you want on a personal level. So the question you have to ask yourself is, why is it important to set goals for you? And it really is because the payoff comes in so many forms. The biggest benefit is that psychological shift towards increased positivity that rides in tandem with that pursuit of your dream. And I like to equate this to athletes. So athletes in training for a marathon, they frequently identify with the outcome, right? They see themselves crossing the finish line first, or they see themselves up on that podium for that gold medal. And many are surprised by the way it energizes them. And the can-do attitude that is really built out of accomplishing goals can help really repattern your daily activities that last a lifetime. So again, it's making sure that you are setting yourself up towards that psychological shift. And once you change that mindset, it becomes easier. And the last one is that setting goals keeps you accountable. And it goes back to that, not only procrastination, but also how do I stay on target? And having those monthly check-ins, those weekly check-ins. When I do with my folders here, I have little things on each side. What's the point? What's my task one that I need to do? Did I do that? And every month, if it's a long-term goal, every month I take a look at what do I need to do to keep myself going? And so if you made it across that finish line and your goal hasn't been met, you'll likely find a sense of pride in what you've done. And that will help you build to getting your other goals. And the hours of focus and determination can pay off in such unexpected ways. And one of the key reasons to set the goal is to get your life back on track. And I think that helps us remain accountable. And you can have a workout buddy, you can have an accountability partner, but in the end, it's that self-satisfaction and the improved positive mental attitude that it begins to emerge over time that helps you when you hold yourself accountable and push those limits. So again, we have setting goals keeps you accountable. Goals help you to stay motivated, and setting goals will help us measure progress towards success. They help identify what's important to you, and they give you that sense of direction. All reasons why we need to start setting goals. But let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about what you can do to make it more likely you keep your next New Year's resolution or goal and be well on your way to being a goal digger. I am Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio, living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on this New Year's edition of Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Don't forget to visit getrootedradio.com to listen to a replay of this episode, sign up for helpful tips, and learn about upcoming events. That's getrootedradio.com. So we've been talking all about being a goal digger, looking back to look forward, and what we can do to keep our New Year's resolutions or our New Year's goals. And I prefer to call them goals just because I feel like when we say resolutions, sometimes they have a negative connotation. So I say this year, stop the cycle of resolving to make change and then not following through. So to setting a goal and achieving it, let's really focus on tips that we can use and to help you get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is being realistic. And the surest way to fall short of our goals is to make your goal unattainable. We talked about it a little bit, like setting a goal of losing 20 pounds in a month. We're not going to make it that way. So if we resolve to never eat our favorite food again, it's going to set us up to fail. Instead, strive for a goal that is attainable, such as maybe avoiding it more often than you do now. And when we create our goals, we want to think and be smart. And that's SMART. And I'm sure listeners have heard this, right? It's a simple technique. It's often used in business goal setting, but it's also a very practical approach. And I take a little spin on it. So the S typically stands for specific, but I say make it special. So if you aren't making it special for yourself and it's something that you want to do, it goes back to what you like, what you're passionate about, what your strengths are. So you want to be specific, right? Don't just say, I'm going to be more healthy. What does that mean? And why is that special for you? Why am I going to change the way I eat or work out or sleep? Does it mean we have to change all those things? The next is the M, and that's typically for measurable. I like to also say make it measurable and memorable. Again, it goes back making that personal to you, making that passionate to yourself, because if it's not something that's going to bring you joy, bring you a personal benefit, you're not going to keep going after it. The A, of course, attainable, just like we were talking about. We don't want to set unrealistic goals, but also arousing and authentic. And what I mean about is that going to bring you want to do that. I think of exercising. Sometimes I'm just like, I do not have the energy to do it. I just can't, I don't have it in me. But once I do it, I feel so much more energized. I feel so much better. And so I know it's going to give me that burst that I need, that little bit more energy, even if I'm not having the energy to do it. So again, the attainable, achievable, arousing, authentic for that A. The R is relevant, but I always also want to say rewarding, because If it's not rewarding to you, again, getting back to the special, the memorable, the authentic, if it's not something that's you and rewarding to you, you're not going to do it. And that's why we really want to focus in. Don't do a goal because other people think you should. Don't set an expectation because other folks, because then you're not going to be as invested in it, and therefore you're not going to achieve it. The last one is T, time bound, timely. And I like to add in there, true to yourself. It's getting back to that A of authenticity. Is this something that you are going to do for yourself? It's part of what you want in your overall goals. So again, it's SMART, specific and special, measurable and memorable, attainable, achievable, arousing, authentic, relevant and rewarding, time-bound, timely, and true to yourself. So be smart. So again, that first tip is being realistic and being smart. The second is plan ahead. Don't make your resolutions on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, because if you wait to that last minute, you'll be in whatever that mindset that you are in that particular day. So if you haven't started yet, it's not too late. Instead, think about it. I have a journal that I start, a fresh one every year, that I start in and say, what do I want for the coming year ahead? What don't I want for the coming year ahead? And make that list. And if I say I want more joy, well, what brings me joy? And what can I do? Because I can't rely on joy from somebody else. You can do that. It's just like happiness. You have to create that happiness for yourself and not rely on something else or that destination happiness. Once I get this, I will be happy. Once I have this, I will have joy. You need to create that for yourself. So plan ahead. The next is outline your plan. Decide how you will deal with the temptation to skip that exercise class or have that piece of cake. You need to outline on what am I going to do, to remediate the situation. And if you failed, don't just scrap it. Just because you failed at one meal, let's say, doesn't mean you have to scrap the entire day. Start fresh that moment. You could have something where you have, when I'm feeling down or depressed, I have a friend I can call for help. Or I need to start practicing positive thinking and positive self-talk. Or remind yourself of how that behavior will affect your overall goal. So when planning, you have to remember, again, to be smart. And that's why the goals, if they're not your goals that you set, that you want, you won't live up to them because you won't be able to plan ahead and you won't be able to outline that plan on what am I going to do if I get stuck. And if you have any project planning experience, you want to think of your personal goals just like a project plan. You have things to set up in stages with many goals and deadlines throughout. So again, like I showed you these folders, like that's what I do. I actually set out and I will write down what steps I need to take this month to get me to that window. If I need to edit on Mondays and Wednesdays and I need to write, that doesn't mean I have to wait to those days to do it, but I have to have time set aside. And when I say outline, I also mean put that time on your calendar. Actually schedule appointments with yourself, because you schedule an appointment with your doctor, you schedule an appointment for your meetings with clients or meetings with other departments if you're working in an organization. Set that time in that meeting with yourself and don't cancel on yourself. It's so important that you don't cancel on yourself. Number 4 would be make that pros and cons list. I told you earlier, I'm big on lists. So not only that to-do list, but when you make a pros and cons list, it helps to see items on paper to keep your motivation strong. And you might have to develop this list over time, and you might have to also ask others to contribute to it. Keep your list with you and refer to it when you need help keeping you on your journey. But you have to remember, even if you ask folks for their input, the goal is yours, not theirs. So when I say, maybe get a contributing factor from others, you want to make sure that you are still doing that A and that T, that authenticity and true to you, so that you can make sure you're making that goal. The next one, where I think some people may disagree with me, but I say talk about it. Don't keep your goal a secret, because sometimes you need others to help you. So if you're thinking of cutting back on your drinking or quitting smoking or doing anything like that, and you don't tell friends and family, how are they going to be there to support that resolution or that change in that habit? And maybe even best case scenario, you might find a buddy who shares your goal, and then you can help motivate one another. So don't keep it a secret. I'm not trying to say shout it from the rooftops, but at the same time, when you make it more public, you are more apt to actually do it, because that means it's out there. It's out there in the universe for you to do. And make sure that you're rewarding yourself. So don't go the entire time of your goal without celebrating your victories. So I'm not saying don't eat an entire box of chocolates if you get to your goal, and your goal was to, have a better diet, but you want to celebrate those successes along the road so that you keep yourself motivated, because you will find challenges. Maybe you're exercising and you're getting fit, you're getting healthy. Maybe your impact is a new fitness clothes, or maybe it's going to a movie with a friend, or trying a new healthy recipe that you've always wanted to. Just don't wait. Reward yourself. This number 7 would be track your progress. Keep track of each small success. Those short-term goals are easier to keep than looking at that big long term. So instead of focusing on losing 30 pounds, focus on losing the first 5. Or if the goal is to minimize or declutter your house, start one room at a time, even one section of a room. I'm going to clean this portion of the room, and just keep making your way up. So set those smaller goals to help you obtain those overall goals. It makes the project plan so much easier, as we discussed earlier. Number 8, don't beat yourself up. You will make mistakes. You will slip up, but it's still progress. And you can choose to learn from those mistakes, but obsessing over that occasional slip won't help you achieve your goal. So do the best you can each and every day, and take it one day at a time. Number 9, stick to it. Experts say it takes about 21 days for a new activity to become a habit, and 6 months for it to become part of your personality and your overall behavior. It's not going to happen overnight, so just be persistent and be patient. And number 10, keep trying. If you have totally run out of steam when it comes to keeping your resolution or your goal, or working on a goal by mid-February, don't sweat. Just start over. Recommit yourself for 24 hours. And we all know we can do anything for 24 hours. And soon those 24-hour increments will build into a week, will build into another week, into a month, etc. So again, those 10 tips are: be realistic and be smart, plan ahead, outline your plan, make a pros and cons list, talk about it, make it real, reward yourself, track your progress, don't beat yourself up, stick to it, and keep trying. At the end of the day, you are in control of how you live your life. And if you set goals, don't feel like you have to wait in order to get serious about them because of a date on the calendar. 3 more things I just want to add before we go to break. After you have reflected and looked back, right? We looked back, we reflected, release the past year. It's important to forgive the past and honor the learning experiences and take that step forward. Develop a morning intention. Set an intention to deeply commit to the desire within yourself that wants that presence. As you really tap into that desire and you start your day with a positivity, you will be more present in the moment, and you will keep yourself going. And then the last would be measure your success by how much fun and how much joy you are having. Stress doesn't equate to productivity. Take pleasure in your successes, but focus on the greatest success of all, which is living a fun, fulfilling life, which is what we're all really trying to do with goal setting. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, let's talk about how all of this makes you a goal digger. You are listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to this New Year's edition of Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any of the information during the last segments, go to getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com to listen to the replay. Don't forget to subscribe, sign up for tips and special events and pricing for upcoming coaching sessions at getrootedradio.com. During the last segments, we have talked about why New Year's resolutions or goals work, why they may not work, why goals are important to make, and how to make the right goals for you. So now let's get into how this makes you a goal digger. And I love the term because we all want to go after, right? We want to dig for those goals. We want to go down deep within ourselves to achieve what's going to bring us joy. And that's just it. Goals are incredibly personal. This means that even though it might be tempting to list off a couple of things you want to do, you really should focus on what those goals mean to you and how you can achieve them. If you set a goal or a resolution because everyone else is doing it, you most likely won't achieve it. And that's not what we want, because then we get into that mindset of now we failed because we didn't do something we really wanted to do. Setting goals really helps trigger new behaviors. It helps guide your focus and helps you sustain momentum in life. Goals also help align your focus and promote that sense of self-mastery. So in the end, you can't manage what you don't measure, and you can't improve upon something that you don't properly manage. So it gets back to the different things we talked about last segment on measuring that success. And if we aren't properly managing our expectations, our goals, our wants, our needs, we won't achieve them. And that healthy goal setting, and I'm not talking necessarily health and wellness, I'm just saying that healthy goal setting is about finding practical ways to reach goals that, again, benefit you, not someone else. A healthy goal is one that sets a positive tone, especially when it comes to your body. A healthy goal is one that helps you to feel good physically and mentally. So you want to make sure you start out small, but you end up taking on a journey towards a long-term benefits. So that could be improved self-confidence, strength, self-esteem, self-worth, because as we set healthy goals for ourselves that benefit us, that provide us passion and joy, it builds those things in us, those physical, those mental, emotional benefits that keep on going, not just a destination. And being a goal digger doesn't mean you work every minute of every day. It means you appreciate the grind, you appreciate the hustle, and you know where you're going, and nobody's going to stand in your way, right? So you're going to appreciate what you're going to do, but you're still going to have fun along the way. And you want to make sure that you have that end in sight. If you're just focusing on that task to get it done and not enjoying it as you go, is that the right goal for you? And don't get me wrong, there are going to be things that you have to do in order to achieve a goal that you don't love. And so I'm not saying that every single moment's going to be a pleasure, but you have to take a look at how you're doing that. And how do you know you are a goal digger? And my thing is, do you have goals? Then you're well on your way. So goal diggers network. Networking is that goal digger's haven. It's a chance to meet like-minded people, maybe even someone who will help you find your way to your goal. And of course, you return the favor. So as you're building something, whether that's writing a book, building a business, getting healthy, you're going to find like-minded people when you get into that realm. And those individuals can help you and you can help them. And we want to know our worth and are quick to remind others of theirs. So it doesn't matter what your goal is. If you believe in yourself, you can achieve it. I don't know when, right? Only you know when it will happen. But if you believe in yourself, it will happen. And even if it doesn't happen in the time frame you set out originally, doesn't mean the goal was a bad goal to have. It might just take you longer. Personally, I had goals set for last year. I had things interrupt them. I'm not scrapping those goals. I'm now reevaluating to say, well, I wanted to have that done last year. It didn't happen. I'm not scrapping all the work that I put into it up until the point I had to stop. I'm now looking at my goals again to say, I'm going to have to extend that. And that's okay. And was it hard for me to admit that? Absolutely. It was very hard I didn't make my goal. I really wanted that, but I still want it. So I'm going to continue to move forward. And I'm not going to beat myself up that I didn't get it done in the time frame that I wanted, because that does nothing to your self-worth and self-confidence. So just remember that everyone's version of success is different. One person's goal will be different than another, and how one person defines success is different from another. Only you can determine all of that for yourself. And again, we go back to those SMART goals, making sure that it's something that you want to achieve and that you have that sense of balance in your life. And you need to be passionate. You need to set those goals and reward yourself. A goal digger will be fighting to be a better version of him or herself or herself. It is important to recognize what makes you happy. And for some, it is working hard at their job. For others, it could be competing in a certain sport or activity. And for others, it could just be spending time with those they care about. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if you aren't doing something you are passionate about that brings you joy, you will never be successful or happy in life. After all, life is about being happy. If you are always fighting to make it out of someone's shadow, you will never truly be the person that you want to be. But if you strive to be a better you than you were yesterday, happiness will follow. So really, being a goal digger is all mindset. It's the basics of setting goals for your life and doing what it takes to achieve them, whether they are personal or professional goals, health, wellness, career, financial, spiritual, or a new trade. You are setting goals for whatever it is you desire that will define success to you. And tackling those obstacles and burdens that may get in your way, being determined, persevering, and sometimes a little suffering with blood, sweat, and tears, it will make you go through, which saying that reminds me of our tenets of Taekwondo when my son and I did Taekwondo together. It's truly something to live by in goal setting in life. Courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit. Whether your goals are for the upcoming year, month, 6 months, 5 years, I hope many of the things that we've talked about this episode will help you in achieving that. So again, making sure that you are doing what you need to do for your success, for your happiness, understanding your mistakes, moving past them and learning from them, trying new things that you've never done before, and most importantly, you're just doing something. That is why we say that the new year is a new chapter, a new verse. You get to decide. Is it the same old story? You write it. You are the author of your life. The first step towards getting somewhere is to decide that you're not going to stay where you are. And if in that, I wish you all an abundance of digging, goal digging in this 2024. I want to thank you all for tuning in to this New Year's Day edition of Get Rooted Radio. If you missed any part of today's episode or you want to listen again, go to getrootedradio.com for the podcast. And don't forget to tune in on the first and third Monday of every month at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on Transformation Talk Radio. Thank you for tuning in. Have an amazing day. Happiest of New Year's, and may all your goals come to life. I look forward to the next time on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Visit getrootedradio.com if you've missed any part of this hit show, and tune in on transformationtalkradio.com to live fearlessly in your more and powerfully rooted in your unlimited yes. For more information and to work with Erica directly, visit getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com, and get ready to live it up, love it up, and let it go.